It was the Sprout show to kickstart things this series on Vertigo as they wrap up in a swift 16-7. Godsent fall off the edge, quite literally in some cases, but there is hope yet. Their map pick of Inferno looms on the horizon. And as we continue this voyage, Maniac and Potter are here to be breaking things down. And Potter, a stellar performance from Sprout to really cement their dominance in this game, all kicking off with a fantastic T-side.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, I mean, it seemed like they had full control over everything. Towards that A ramp, you saw that Godsent were trying to poke and prod, but just across the board, even on the T side, as you mentioned, Freya, I mean, we had Snatchy towards B, finding success, winning out all his duels. And we had Dennis towards A, just consistently poking and prodding. And at the end of the day, towards that mid game, they were able to recollect themselves and win out those rounds. It was a complete domination coming out from Sprout.
Yeah, and I really should have listened to you, Maniac, in the pre-show. You know, you said exactly what was going to happen in this. Sprout were really going to be bringing the individuals to it, going to be bringing that scrappy playstyle. They were going to be testing Godsent, and they did it from the offset.
Yeah, absolutely. They played a messy Counter-Strike, they forced the duels, and they played the power play. I think there was a match in the match. Diha had a lot of duel with Zen over on the B-bomb side. Unfortunately for Godsent, Zen had a very, very quiet game. Diha dominated him completely throughout the entire game. Then you have, as Kristen said, Dennis had a very, very good game. Here we have the play of the day, probably. Zen falling off the edge. Just joking, that's not the play of the day. But yeah, I mean, Sprout did exactly what they wanted. They forced a messy game, and then when you move on to the CT side, Snatchy was very aggressive on the A round with the AWP as well. I told you he was going to be there, and he made the difference. I just want to put it out there. Scoreline is 16-7. Godsent won both pistol rounds and converted both pistol rounds, and it is 16-7. So there was no discussion. If you're Godsent now, you take that page off, you rip it off, and you move on to the next map.
Yeah, I do want to bring up a player from that Sprout side of things, so Maniac. Of course, a player that we didn't really touch upon during our pre-game segment, but Dennis, his entry ability was incredibly crucial for Sprout on the side of things.
Dennis can be very impactful. I think, unfortunately, he might have the tendency to disappear in tight games. I've seen him miss the mark whenever Sprout really needed him, but he's comfortably in that 3 to 4th place right now in the T, but he can always have these games. We've seen it on Vertigo. He had all the space in the world, all the confidence, and when he's feeling it, he's very proactive, he's very dominant, he takes charge of the round. So if you're a Sprout fan, you just hope that this form kind of carries on to the next map.
Yeah, and the next map being Inferno, Potter. This is going to be Godsent's map pick coming into it. We've seen them having some success against, you know, some higher caliber teams than we would compare to Sprout. So how are they going to be turning things around going into this one?
You know, you're right. I mean, because Godsent have had so much, I guess, experience throughout this week in DreamHack Open Fall, playing Inferno, picking Inferno throughout majority of their series, you're going to see a little bit more comfortability. I don't think that the gun rounds are going to go completely into the Sprout's favor, as we just saw on Vertigo. I'm looking straight at Farlig, man. You know, we just saw Fnatic JW having so much success towards that arch side, being mobile, being at the right place at the right time, providing the perfect amount of utility. That's what we need to see from Farlig. I'm not even looking at the shots. I'm not even looking at the scoreboard. I'm looking at how fluid he is in that server, how comfortable he is, and not backing down. You know, that arch side, it's so crucial. And of course, we got to talk about the banana control. You know, for Sprout, one thing that I noticed that was kind of surprising is Favin actually busts out the AWP a lot of the times towards that B. So I'm curious to see what Sprout does towards that banana as well. This Inferno, it's a question mark for me. I don't think it's going to be quite as one-sided as we just saw on this Vertigo.
I think there are a lot of questions going into this one, indeed, and hopefully we'll be able to find some answers. We're going to a quick break, but when we're back, Inferno is up next.
It was straight up a domination for Sprout on Vertigo, but now we move to Inferno, a map that by its very nature is a little bit closer, a little bit slower in terms of tempo, Tom, and what we're hoping is it's going to be a whole lot closer in terms of the overall scoreline, because even with winning both pistols, Sprout soundly bested their opponents. Now Godsent, they're one map away from elimination.
Yeah, for sure. I don't think, like, sort of what I mentioned earlier about, like, I don't think these teams necessarily have a home map. This is one that's good for both teams. Like, this, if anything, looks more like a decider map in my eyes, because I think Sprout have been very happy to play this in the past. Actually going to be starting out on the CT side. They did have the choice. Personally, I would have actually quite liked to see Sprout start on the T side, because like, I like watching their T side, again, especially Dennis as a highlight, but this is one hell of a start. The trade coming back and forth, however, Crystal will win his duel, and in fact comes up with 2, leaving Snatchy, well, not for long at least. He was flanked from the apartments, and Godsent, well, we're here again, aren't we? They are the Pistol Kings, it seems.
Yeah, 3 out of 3 now, moving forward into what should be more converted rounds. It's one of the few positives that we can really highlight from Vertigo is they did secure their subsequent 2 rounds after winning the pistol on both sides. So you'd expect to see more of the same. Inferno, the kind of map, though, that likes of these Mag 7s and pistols up close can be so detrimental and so deadly. So Godsent must be careful, but it's good news from the neutral's perspective that they've come out the gates quick and to try and make amends for that previous mishap, shall we call it. And it will be Dennis taking down the first frag. They get baited in. Crystal still spraying, running out of ammunition. How is he still alive? He puts the next couple bullets down range and takes down Favin. I cannot believe that Crystal's still alive out of this. What the hell just happened?
That is a lot of luck. And Farlig looks down at the Mag 7 again. Oh, he's going to pick it up. It is the moneymaker. And he's made me disappointed in a matter of seconds. But you know what? Natchi, Diha, probably not going to be going for too much more in this round. Although you can see Diha starting to be a little bit cheeky with his positioning. Gaining some map control back. Chance of them winning this round slim. But there are a couple of low players. I think he's just been spotted as well. Sticko was sat on the right side of mid, which bit of an unusual position. It leaves you kind of stuck in the mud if you miss your shots. And actually, well, I was looking at it thinking maybe they'll go back to A just because they spotted that player rotating. But with Farlig at the back of B site, you can kind of think that this one's clear.
Yeah, they'll definitely feel pretty comfortable about that. But if Snatchy and Diha go in, I would be expecting them to actually just stay together here alive. It gives you something to play with. They can even go and hunt and look for an extra pistol or something that maybe Snatchy can pick up and toss across to a teammate so they can get 3 players as opposed to 2. But they will stay alive together, the 2 poles. And Godsent off to a 2-0 start. Only losing Madden, but honestly, Tom, that was looking real shaky at Banana. Had one of those Mag 7 pellets connected onto Crystal. Additionally, he would have gone down, would have put more pressure on Farlig, and maybe they actually just get straight up counted on Banana. So even though they do take the round, Sprout certainly had their chances and opportunities and nearly made it a stinging one.
I'm also interested to see if Godsent are going to be as aggressive on Banana as we've seen so far, because last 2 rounds, they've pretty much just gone running all the way up and willing to challenge. Now, we mentioned Madden before as someone who it can be it almost sometimes looks like he's playing with a screw loose. Like he'll just go running into angles, take risky fights. And I think it's actually something that Godsent need, because you do have a lot of very calm, collected players, a lot of players that in previous teams were considered to be supportive players or in-game leaders or whatever you may take it, bringing it together for this sort of like ragtag comeback of some of the players. So I think they needed someone like him. I think the addition of Farlig is a huge one at the time. We're waiting to see the profit from him. In this round at least, well, that's all they're really looking for, Vince. Some extra money, keeping things nice and clean. Unless Diha or maybe Snatchy pulls off something utterly ridiculous, this should be a very easy round. But they are rotating their stack. Now, they're all going to be coming through the library just at the right or wrong time. Take it as you will. There's plenty of players waiting. Madden just swings out. He's like, well, I sniffed the eco kills. And Zen even looking to maybe take down Crystal. He's killed himself once. I guess a TK would be another addition to what has been not the greatest of series so far.
Just the worst game of bingo ever. I've done all the bad things, but it's okay because Godsent collectively are doing the good things right now. They haven't lost too many players. I suppose if we want to look at a little bit of a positive for Sprout, it wasn't the SMG that got many of those. I think Crystal only got 1 frag. So it's not as if, you know, he ran through and tore through the heads of multiple players and he just sat on a ton of money. He actually is still sat on a ton of money, but it could have been a whole lot better. He trades up to the Galil, $7,000, and he could even drop an AWP across to Farlig if they so chose, but they decide against it. They run through with full-on rifles. There is an AWP in play, but that finds its ways into the hands of Snatchy, who has a pretty decent spawn to go peeking down Banana if he wants to go for it. It looks like he will. Actually, it was middle where he's pushing in. So interesting. And that comes out second best. And that's a brutal start to the rifle round for Sprout. You can pretty much spin how Vertigo went round on its head. They lose the first player instantly. Now, fortunately, they do get a kill from Dennis, but it's at the cost of 85 of his health. So he can't even afford to repeat. In trouble here, Sprout.
And interestingly as well, like Crystal's almost just run up the top of mid and said, I'm the AWPer now. He's just yoinked that away and then goes back to repeat. But this is so aggressive. I love it from Sprout. They've gone all the way down Banana. They're going to clean up the remaining Godsent players. And well, Sticko, I'm sure he's questioning what has just happened to the remainder of his team. Now, he's someone renowned for being a cerebral player. He's got to back it up with the aim, and so far so good. 2 kills to his name, and Faven already low. 52 HP. And steal that bomb away, and will just about do it. I thought for a second Faven might hit the timing. Where's Sticko going to go? He has the chance to potentially wrap all the way back around to B. Questioning where his remaining opponent will be. I think Faven's just realized, okay, the bomb's gone. Where can it be heading? Is he going to follow the leader all the way around? It looks like he will.
By the slimmest of margins, Faven wasn't too far away from spotting him. But he will hear that bomb going down. And now it's all about Faven. How is your aim? It will come down to a 1v1. Sticko's already dispatched and slotted a couple of players. He's looking for another one. This is a really important moment in the match as well to kick things off, and Sticko comes out ahead. He burns alive, but he doesn't care. And you can see he is so relieved. He's pumped. He's feeling it now.
Yeah, that's the sort of round that gets your heart racing. And it's a shame as well, because Sprout, I really like their re-aggression into Banana. I think it was incredibly well played, but this is just a clutch masterclass from Sticko. The first kill, okay, that one's for free. Manages to catch out a second player. And then, well, the way that most players will look to try and finish off a clutch, you completely reset the situation. You don't know, or don't allow your opponent to know exactly where you are. And well, he does fantastically well. This round from Sprout, they're trying to re-aggress onto Banana. And as said, it's been something that Godsent are more than happy to challenge for, to steal away from the side of Sprout. And Adam on the edge of the smoke really is looking to have those stats in this round. Remaining 2 players are looking to try and rotate in, but fact is at this point, shouldn't really be getting away with anything at all.
Oh, bit of a team kill. Farlig did frag Diha through his teammate of Mad.
Bingo!
There you go. We get it. We get that first row. Many more to come.
We need a 1G now. We need a 1G.
Snatchy, only 1 ADR to his name. That's a bit rough. Shows how one-sided the start of this map has been. And Snatchy using that smoke. He wants to try and deny the bomb plant, but the bodyguard of Farlig is too good, making amends for that previous TK. As you said, though, Tom, really not much coming through on Sprout. They only have 8 kills collectively. We're moving into the 6th round, and you can see the effects of that in the economy of some of these Godsent players. Crystal, nearly $9,000. Farlig, over $7,000. And we're early doors with Sprout not really putting anything in terms of their rifle round prowess. Now they come through with 2 AWPs, however. Let's see if this round will start to change their fortunes. Fathom with his secondary AWP, going over on B, actually boosted up. And if Farlig peeks out, you expect that Fathom will come out ahead, but that Molotov perfectly quells and denies this very boost and gives a little bit of breathing room to Godsent, who go back in, and Madden is punished.
Interesting repeat. Like the counter Molotov was genius to force the AWPer off the angle. And then to just run back into the angle anyway just seems, well, almost nullified. But maybe not quite the start. And as said, that's something I've always given credit over to Godsent for, is that they normally have the set utility, flashing for teammates, setting someone like Madden up. But in that case, it was almost just a dry peek. And speaking of dry peeks, that might be one for the ages. Just wide peek after wide peek, fight after fight. CT side are bringing this round back after what was an initial trade kill. And this is incredibly disjointed. Like, just one after another. Easy stuff for Sprout. And this wasn't like there was a round that was sort of falling away from them by any stretch of the imagination. It was a 5v5, then a 4v4. And still, we just see just almost barreling round corners with no fear.
Yeah, 4v4 and mid control via the arches. You know, they got that dry peak, as you said, so dry. I'm pretty sure that Zen would have been choking on that. But still, they get the kill. And then you're thinking, okay, you've got real map control early on in the round. And then, as you say, just one by one, walking into the AWPers, walking into their ability to just shut you down. Faven, flick this time, misses. But the extinguished Molotov won't do too much damage after all. Down to 71, but lives to tell the tale. And now they can retreat over a third player to bolster up the defense. Godsent looking like they want to go for a set play. And they will. Spitty goes in for the spray. Dennis instantly takes his head off, but then gets traded back out again. Faven's been given all of this free reign, though, to hold in position behind triple box. The incendiary actually doesn't bother him at all. So he's still there. And as long as he's in this position, it will force the T's hands to put a couple of their crosshairs and players over in that very location. They have no more nades or mollies to draw Faven's position out, but he's gone down only with one kill. That frees up Spitty to come in for a spray alongside Diha. A real chaotic round comes down to a 2-on-2, but Diha's trying to make the most of this momentary weakness, assuming they went for the plant, but actually they didn't. Zen peeks into him, leaving Snatchy now all alone against Zen and Madden, and no reason for Zen to peek, but he wants to look for information. It's at the cost of his life. Coming down to another one-on-one, and Snatchy not slowing down. The pole moving into position, but the barrel of the gun betrays him, and Madden will punish. 6-1 lead for Godsent. Sprout straight back in to a reset.
I won't lie to you, Vince. I really didn't enjoy that round. Like, it was weird. Like, it was sort of both teams stuck. Faven at the back of the site. There was also a smoke wall created by Godsent, which just seemed to make things incredibly awkward. We saw Spitty, I think, have 2 or 3 chances to find a kill, and unfortunately the AUG betrayed him. Just seems to be battle after battle. Nice shot from Farlig, though. We're seeing the AWP, but then there's an instant trade. Crystal trying to run up mid. We actually saw him in the last round as well, even with, I think, over 4,000 in the bank, opt for a Mac 10. So it seems like his role is almost just to try and get away with things, like running through smoke, taking big risks, and hope that his teammates will be there to trade him along the way. A 4v4 is still not a bad situation to be in, and now Diha makes me uncomfortable because Sticko's waiting on the other side. Piece of aggression that left his teammates in a bit of an awkward spot, and Snatchy thus far hasn't really had much of a part to play so far in this map. That's the nice shot, though, using the smoke, getting into position, a second connected as well. He gets the third. There's only Farlig remaining. Snatchy looking to try and pick up an ace to get their second round on the board. He's not going to be able to do it, and Farlig is looking for a response. He spotted the man in the graveyard. This is only a 1v2. He finds the kill. No way. That is genius. How did he know? He read Faven like a book, and back-to-back AWPing 4Ks. It's not even enough.
Snatchy. Imagine how triggered he must be, just sat there silently stewing. Like, I just picked up a 4K. I did it all by myself. How have we lost that round, guys? And this is just a masterclass on a clutch from Farlig, knowing that Faven's typically their B player. There's a good chance he's rotating round the back, but this is the first play in the round. Snatchy with just beautiful frags. I cannot believe that Sprout have lost that. And when you combine that round alongside the Stico 1v3 clutch, you look at the 7-1 scoreline and you think of what could have been here, Tom. This could be such a closer affair than it currently is, but the clutches have been coming through for Godsent, and what a huge turnaround from Vertigo, right? They were losing out every single trade. They never seemed like they had a hope in a clutch, and now suddenly they're busting them out left, right, and center.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. Like, this has been a situation now where we have seen two, like, obvious round losses based off just pure individual brilliance. Like, both Farlig and Sticko have dragged out rounds that never should have been. And let's be real, these anti-ecos, they've not even been close. Like, most of them have been purely dominant. Like, sure, there was one where we were like, maybe if the Mag 7 got a kill, but if that's your win factor, I'm not going to be believing too much in the ability of that round to go your way. But it is a surprise. As I said, this is a map that Sprout have liked to play quite a lot. Sure, not over the last month or so, but even still, it is surprising that this has been so dominant. Spitty, that is ridiculous. Can he get 3 kills with 1 clip of a CZ? What? Never mind, the Anticos haven't been clean, Vince. I take it back. I was wrong.
Sticko's still alive, though. We know what he can do, but there's the double peek. DreamHack through the smoke. And now it's Godsent's turn to sit back and feel that gut punch and think, God, how did we let that one slip? So, what is 3 kills from Spitty, all close range with the CZ. 1 magazine, using each and every bullet allocated and giving Sprout a lifeline. Sure, it's a pretty dicey lifeline at that, but at least they've got something to work with. And have a look at that economy in the process, Dom. Zen and Sticko down to $1,700. Like, they're in trouble economically speaking.
Well, and as I sort of said at the beginning of the map, I think that Sprout actually have a pretty decent T side of this map. Similarly to the last, you see Dennis being able to get away with an awful lot when he does get rolling. So yeah, they can't afford to let rounds like that slip. I guess we now have to look at both teams and say they've lost rounds that never should have been. And being that Sprout's second round only comes off the back of some CZ magic from Spitty as well. Like, he's been very, very quiet so far. In fact, just doubling his kills in the last round. This is a huge lifeline. And the buy that's coming up for Godsent is, well, it's a bit of a weird one. We saw Farlig initially saving pretty much all of his cash, but has decided to invest in latter in the round. The AK lasts all but, I think, 5 seconds before it's dropped into the hands of Crystal instead. This round seems like one where you're going to be able to buy into the next, like a hero AK, a chance to do some damage, but that's not the case. This is everything they've got.
Indeed, just holding up for the AWP fund, which may not really be viable for a couple of rounds, but I suppose Godsent already have a great foundation built with the 7 at their disposal, so they can afford to not necessarily throw a couple of rounds away, but build into a much better buy. Here come a ton of grenades on both sides, but it's the T's coming out worse for wear. HE's and Molly's doing the bulk of the damage, with Diha's AK ripping into the oncoming Godsent members. And now it's just a formality of crossing the T's and dotting the I's. Sticko at least makes it a little bit more punishing, a little bit more costly with his headshot. And now 1v3. Doesn't have control of the bomb, so that does allow Sprout to just sit in position and basically wait for him. They have Snatchy watching from lower mid. If Sticko crosses the arches, and it is Snatchy that pulls the trigger for the final time in round 10. Sprout do get 2 in a row, but now Godsent have some more decisions to make. As you highlighted though, Tom, in terms of this round, there aren't that many really available. They pretty much have to tap out.
Well, they do have a hell of a lot of experience coming in on this roster, so we can see what they come up with for what will be their pistol investment. I would quite like to see them put a bit more pressure onto the apartments. We've seen a few times now where Diaz actually got caught out, and hey, considering this is an eco round, this is a pretty bold play, but he does a hell of a lot of damage, even if he does eventually go down. Snatchy is making sure that rifle really can't go anywhere. Although he does lose the duel to a P250, so Farlig still putting up the numbers. He has been very good in this map so far. 13 and 6, all ping on the T side of Inferno. It's not an easy task. A lot of the time it comes down to countering aggressive players. And, well, it has to be said, Sprout have had a fair few. It's not often you see a flank on T mid. So this situation, the problem is he can't really save because he needs the extra money to get his AWP. So unfortunately, it all came down to doing some damage, and if he dropped it over, then that player wouldn't have been able to give him an AWP back in return. So he almost had to die, unfortunately.
Indeed. I think he went back to that position to just reload his M4 safely, and then maybe a call came through like, you need to go kill. You need to make sure that you do die, as you highlighted. That being said, Sprout do get 4, but Godsent are into that moment that we've been talking about them building up to. Are they going to deliver on the promise? Farlig flicks across, but actually misses, goes back in for seconds.
Okay.
The audacity for go for that repeat when you want 26 HP and you know this player is staring you down. Nearly gets the upper hand as well. I mean, he does actually come out slightly ahead in terms of damage. Snatchy's also a little bit low. But neither player will actually fall. Now Madden goes in. Beautiful flashbang tossed in. Does get 1, but they come out second best on the trades. Favon with 2, forcing Godsent away from Banana, but they're making it up elsewhere. Moving into Arches. Wrapping around is the Finn of Zen, and Diha's timing is slightly off. They have no idea that Zen has made moves.
I'm starting to wonder if either Favon is playing anti-flash or if they do know. Because if you look at the direction on the map of where he's currently looking, he is peering towards the spawn. So I am starting to question if they do know that this position has been given up. Diha is already going to kill off 1 more, and this leaves the bomb relatively alone, and Zen sneaking his way back through. This is where he might be able to catch somebody on the A side, but will he expect Diha to be in this corner? And they're still watching. They're still checking to see if there is somebody wrapping around. This should be the freebie, but he might go looking for a little bit more. Needs to kill on Dennis, and that's exactly what he gets. Great work from Zen. It seems like Sprout initially at least knew he was there, and now he's going for even more. He wants to try and finish this round. A 3rd kill for Zen as well, leaving Favon alone. But the trade, that could be enough to make this interesting. Farlig is on 26 HP. He is watching that smoke, however. But Favon has to be pretty careful, and Farlig nails the shot. A 14th kill for him, an 8th round for Godsent. The half is won. And money for Sprout is in a bit of an awkward spot, but they're going straight in for the buy, no questions asked.
And another round, Tom, that we will go back to at the end of this half and say probably should have not gone the way of Godsent. That was a pretty serious advantage that Sprout had accrued for themselves, but Zen played that flank perfectly. They may have anticipated the wraparound onto B, but it seemed like they were not expecting him to wrap back onto A again. And that was the catalyst for the round. So many grenades exchanged, and it will be Sprout that come out ahead. Snatchy tagged down low. We saw this in the previous round as well, and they're getting the upper hand in terms of the trades. A lot of damage across to Stico. Knocked down to 9, and Spitty deciding to push in with 16 HP. Wants to get up close. He has an MP9 as well alongside him, and an extra smoke, so he's cordoned off this area for a considerable amount of time, and that's allowed Diha to make moves into apps. This split and pick kind of composition is coming out well, but Zen silencing Diha will put them on the back foot, leaving Snatchy to defend A all alone.
Confident Zen is a scary Zen, that's for sure. We saw it in the last map. He went completely missing. You could say he fell out of the map. But in this one, had a big clutch in the last round to help bring things back alongside Farlig. Looks to do the same again. Now with Spiddy and Snatchy so desperately low, that 1 kill from Dia looked great just moments ago, but the trade coming up for Godsent, they're now in a pretty good position. The wraparound is coming in fairly quickly from Snatchy, but he almost needs to wait a little bit for his teammates. They're a bit further behind. He's managed to get quite a lot of control, and in fact, Farlig, he might be giving false info at this point. Then again, the missed shot, and Zen just goes peeking. The shot from Farlig is utterly ridiculous, and now Spiddy with an MP9, he lands a lot of damage, but Zen at the moment is just not missing. A 3K to bring back another round, Vince. And wow, they're becoming the clutch kings. It seems like they're unstoppable.
Yeah, I'm a bit surprised. They had 2 players in Banana for quite some time there, the CTs, and I really expected with Snatchy being low and not being able to watch all the angles, that you'd actually have one of those 2 B players go back over onto A, because keep in mind, they took a lot of Banana control. They had, I want to say it was Spiddy with an MP9 up close. Typically, if you have 1 player at the bottom of Banana with 3 left, you send 2 over on the A side. So some maybe sketchy decision-making that has cost them dearly, and now Sprout can go back in again with very little in terms of firepower, just a few pistols here and there. They try and take control over apps, but they've been well and truly pushed back. Godsent mixing up the pace, already getting top of middle, not caring about Banana. It is a stack from Sprout. Spitty up close in the smoke, but doesn't get a chance to use his Zeus. And with his life being deemed forfeit, now Godsent can wrap all the way around the backhand side and start to constrict onto Faven, who is last man standing, the lone survivor. At least gets one, but it's the MAC-10. And that's just fine as far as Godsent are concerned. 10-4 half. We actually could have the reversal of how Vertigo kicked off. It was 11-4 in favor of Sprout, and Godsent looking pretty good to match that tally.
Yeah, we saw like Maniac, like chilled, coming back onto the desk and like, no surprises, you know. I wonder if he expected this. Like, did he expect this map to be as dominant in the other direction? Like, sure, I think every single big clutch has gone the way of this Godsent side, and while the reaction from Snatchy is just something of sheer aggression, not expecting Farley to be that aggressive, I'm sure he even lands the shot through Farley. On the wall as well. That is ridiculous. He's going to have to retrieve that AWP just to have something to fight with in this round, but the T's are quick to change up their positioning. Okay, we battled the banana. We'll take that as a victory, and now we'll face A-site as well.
Oh, the bloodshed. Double D combo on Sprout. And it's repelled, and there's another one for DreamHack. Dennis, the other element of this A defense, still standing tall and delivering. Faven now steps up to the plate with his AWP. It's looking like Sprout will at least take this to a 10-5. But Madden's still in this round, still with a bit of time alongside him. Maybe I spoke too soon. He knows that Faven was last spotted in library. He heard that AWP shot ring just past his head. And with 2 HP left, Faven is still standing. He wasn't anticipating the push, but it is one-sided on Godsent. We'll see if they can convert and take us into a third or if they'll be eliminated. But first, a small break. A scoreline that maybe doesn't paint the full picture of how that first half went. Sprout will feel like they had real chances to even potentially lead, but it will be 10-5 against them, and they need to do something they've been able to achieve so far in this best of 3. That's win a pistol round, Tom. It's been 3 for 3 on Godsent, and they'll be hoping to make it another one in quick succession. Stiko getting aggressive down middle. Early information gathered. He does get tagged, and the player on Banana. Favin can now face him down, but he comes out second best, and Stiko will survive a little bit longer before he's neutralized. Could this be the one for Sprout? Zen will be trying his best to make sure that's not the case, but he goes down to the hands of Dennis, and that will open up some control over on A side. But a quick wraparound from the CTs may shut this down. Also keep an eye on where the bomb is. It was headed towards B. It's now going back on to the A side of the map. I think they've seen both of the CTs, so they may even re-rotate if DreamHack goes down, but he's standing his ground. He's putting bullets into the heads of the oncoming Ts. And surely this is where we have that 100% pistol round conversion rate going down the drain. Sprout looking good to convert this, but Madden's had quite the performance. Over 100 ADR and 14 frags to his name. He may not have a kit and only 42 health left, but he does have a smoke. My concern for him is if he moves out through balcony, it's a very claustrophobic angle that with 3 players is typically going to have someone watching it, but he may get the upper hand in the fact that DreamHack is playing passively in the graveyard, just popping up. I think at this point, Madden realizes there's no chance of the clutch. May as well save the Kevlar and the smoke. So Sprout finally get themselves a pistol.
Yeah, and well-needed one as well. It's unfortunate for Godsent because this would have pretty much been the nail in the coffin if they managed to take this one over the line. And while Snatchy trying to hunt down that remaining man, not wanting anything saved over into the next round, but this is where things get interesting because, as said, I think that Sprout definitely do have a decent T side of this map. I think also the one thing that's always quite impressed me with their roster in general is that they have a lot of people who I would consider good entry fraggers. Like I think you've got Dennis, who a lot of people won't necessarily look towards, but for probably as long as most people have watched Counter-Strike, he has been an entry fragger. Like he's very aggressive. He has that first bullet accuracy. And that's before we even look at the likes of Snatchy with the AWP, D-Her being like that sort of pug star that can definitely find those individual rounds. And I think Farven fits the bill as well. So that's why their T-side, at least especially if the last map, was terrifying because they were just getting openers left, right, and center and were very, very difficult to shut down. So they have to watch out for that. Interestingly, on this map, Dennis is someone who actually likes to entry frag around apartments quite often, which it's not my go-to for entry frag. I think we see a lot of players, Madden being an example, was fighting Banana an awful lot, mainly because you're going to get handed a lot more jewels over on that side of the map. Couple of nades stacked up and ready. First one expended and not quite having the results that were hoped for, though Dennis does take a tag off of the second. They're patiently waiting, though, and the timing going to be everything. Zen, I don't know how he gets away with anything. Gives up on his first target, and Madden, he's dropped the bomb.
Yeah, that's the bomb down. They have to rush into him, and in doing so, this is where the Deagle can absolutely pounce. The last bullet in the magazine makes it work, and Crystal holding off Diha. A collapse. Catastrophe on Sprout. 20 seconds. Now, Favin does at least have the wraparound, but Crystal's up to the task. He's seen him. 15 seconds to go. Flashbang tossed in. Favin has to just hold W. He has to get aggressive. He has to get in the face of all these CTs, and he doesn't have time to wrap back around onto B. He has to hit A, and in doing so, he'll give up his back to the player that's perched at the back of the site. Or maybe not. Crystal holds on with the Galil. That is a complete and utter disaster for Sprout.
Yeah, I think they just lacked the decision-making in that mid-round. Like, you had obviously the aggression of Zen, which kind of caught them off a little bit, but in the meantime, it was the exact moment that a couple of players then decided to fight towards the arch side, and because of that, they just got split between multiple different players. Madden did a great job of finding a couple of kills, and, well, that's a mistake they really couldn't afford to make in this sort of scenario. They are going to reinvest. D is going to be the one to take up the mantle of the AK-47. It quickly switches hands, and while I mentioned just moments ago, they've got multiple different entry fraggers. Oh, there's another. Farven with the kill.
Thing is, though, that Madden did such a good job of not just getting a kill, but look how much damage he did single-handedly. And that smoke is going to do more harm than good for the T's. It doesn't help them. It doesn't clear the entire choke point. And in doing so, Godsent couldn't believe their luck. Easy cleanup. And keep in mind, that was Sprout forcing. So it's not as if they can drop down to some AKs now. I mean, they're dropping down to some upgraded pistols, and that's basically it.
Yeah, this seems like everything has gone wrong now for Sprout. Like, well, we said that they never win a pistol round. They finally win one, Vince, and then they lose the second. Their attempt at a force buy fails miserably. They've lost multiple clutches. I think if you lose one of those clutches in a map, you're disappointed. If you lose 3, then you've got to start looking at them as the problem rather than their opponents playing fantastically well. Although I don't want to take anything away from Zen, Farlig as well, Sticko, but you kind of have to go, okay, you've lost 3 of these now. What's going on? And all that's really doing is just boosting up this Godsent economy, giving them more and more rounds to play with, more and more positioning in this map. And well, with the last one, I didn't even really question after the first one that we'd be thinking about the third map. The last is going to be Nuke, which is a good map for both sides. The interesting thing as well is that over the last 3 months, I think it's 100% record for Sprout, that coming off the back of a loss on Inferno, maybe that won't be lasting too long.
No, you're spot on, Tom. They played it 11 times, 100% win rate, albeit something that you did also touch on. They haven't necessarily been playing the best caliber teams out there, so some of those may be a bit padded to a degree, but they're still very good on Nuke. We're talking over that because ultimately Sprout never really had a chance. They just had pistols, and now this could be one of their last hurrahs, as it were, on Inferno. They've got AKs. Going to have no AWP for Snatchy to really make the most of, and a Galil on DreamHack. So, Sprout, can you bounce back? You mentioned, Tom, a lot of danger, a lot of threat generated by a ton of entry fraggers. But promise isn't good enough. They now need to start executing on top of that and converting that promise into rounds. Because if they continue to falter, we are going to Nuke, and the momentum at that point is certainly in favor of Godsent.
The king of opening duels so far has been Farlig. Does have his AWP. He's slightly delayed, but a couple of rounds ago he was 4-0 in opening duels. This time though, it's Zen to start things off, and while Farlig only lagging a little bit further behind, it won't quite count to his tally, but I'm sure he won't mind. Faven though has at least managed to bring one back. He's going to try and make a play through the smoke, but Madden was more than prepared, and well, he's had a phenomenal map. That 104 ADR we looked at earlier is not quite as impressive as what he's currently sat on. It has, however, been a trade, and this A-site now relies on one man. Sticker's been very good. He only has an SMG, and he isn't going to win the battle, so this is the A-site completely under the control. We saw many clutches come out of Godsent in the first half. Is it Sprout's turn?
Incendiary and a defusal kit at their disposal, but no flashes or smokes. That being said, Sprout a little bit dry on the utility belt as well. Snatchy did just catch a glimpse of Crystal. That call will come through. May not expect Madden to also be posted behind there, but Snatchy quick on the trigger, a 3K to the pole. And Godsent, they have conceded, but they still have more than enough money to go back in for a buy. So Sprout, well played. There will be no easy gimme rounds for a little bit though.
Thought for a moment that Snatchy was going to completely miss the timing. He kept just sneaking past as went for his peaks. But yeah, as you mentioned, it's not really the end of the world. Madden going to be the only one with any real pieces missing. Farlig will still have his AWP. Crystal trying to get aggressive around the edge of the smokes. I've noticed the theme of like in-game leaders seem to love to play top banana. We saw it with Golden, Alexi B, Crystal. Any more to the mix? Faven though! Edge of the smoke, catches one in the air, and well, he may have been lower down the list of my entry fraggers, but that is an incredible way to start off a round. It's a save. It has to be, right, Vince? You can't fight for this round anymore.
Right, and I think DreamHack knows it. Look at his position. He's in apps already. He can be the linchpin the talisman to maybe denying some of these weaponry. That being said, though, I mean, Sprout's economy is not ideal either. So this could be more of a disciplined sort of passive approach, and DreamHack maybe tries to cheekily come in for a kill near the end. I mean, the bomb timer still has tons of its fuse remaining. But yeah, that's a brisk entry. And I do wonder if maybe this is something on the desk that they could touch on. And I know Maniac is a guy that would certainly have an opinion on this, but maybe the reason you put your IGL at times in Banana is because it's such a hotbed of contestation early on in the round that it allows you to call for rotations early on. Like if you can see a couple players or you get a good read on how many smokes or flashes have been used, maybe it allows you to pull the strings on your teammates for rotations, or if you feel like a third player needs to come over on B, like you're more in amongst the action rather than relying on somebody else's calling.
I think as well that the two other in-game leaders I mentioned are very good at being like the sacrificial lamb, which I think Alexi B might be even the king of that. It's like, okay, I will die for the cause of setting up the remaining members of my team. So it's a place where you're always going to have a battle. Farlig has been absolutely wrecked by nades. They saved in the last round to make sure they had a purchase. It's a good one at that. And he legs up Spiddy. I'm surprised Spiddy survives that. Madden more than happy to go for the trade of damage, but he ends up killing off the other member. With the bomb on the deck and many players being spotted, it's going to be a fast rotation from Sprout. They're trying to catch the remaining players while they're vulnerable. But Farlig, he's already made that full rotation.
Instantly rotating back over on A the second he pulls the trigger. And now Stico, he has the best angle to repel that push from DreamHack, and it's going to be Spiddy. Yep, the weakened player that we touched on before gets finished off by the stray grenade. And it's not just the HEs that are connecting, it's Stico's M4. Godsent 14-8 in the lead, and Sprout, they do have enough money for a buy, but again, they are hanging on by a thread here, Tom, and it feels like Nuke is just around the corner.
Yeah, for sure. Like it was said on the desk, I think we sort of echoed the same sentiments that we thought this map was going to be a lot closer. And sure, there's been elements, there's been big clutches coming out from the side of Godsent, but I think it's getting to the point where we just have to give them credit for being able to steal all of those rounds away. Because now Sprout are looking a little bit flat. Like I said in the last map that we can see Zen have games where he disappears off the face of the earth. Unfortunately, it seems like Dennis is having one of those right now, and Zen, oh, he's flourishing. Let's start with a dunk from the nade onto Diha. I'm not sure who to look to at this point for Sprout. Maybe Favin, I guess, on this T side has been the man to at least open up the one round that they managed to take. But other than that, there hasn't been a lot of success from them.
Yeah, sporadic success. Nothing to really build a comeback on top of. Early nade damage inflicted again, and with 55 seconds, Sprout have slowed down their T side. I mean, Inferno is a bit synonymous for being more passive and a little bit more disciplined. I'd say both these teams have been very aggressive on both sides. It's been very fun to watch. Sprout coming out second best, of course, but the downside of this is that sometimes you run into a crossfire, and Farlig, the timing could not have been worse from the fact that Zen nearly gets 2 from the alcove. He knew he was a dead man. At that point, it's about doing as much damage as possible. They've already thinned out 2 players. Do they anticipate that Stico is here? He typically is an A player around the apps, but Madden has him locked down. M4 from just outside of Library, shushing Sprout on their location in. Stico does get counteracted, and Madden stands his ground, but comes out second best against Diha. This is a real yo-yo round up and down between the two teams, and it seems like Sprout will get a stranglehold over this. In doing so, they can maybe start to perch up that comeback that I was talking about before. Favin and Diha in good positions. Crystal can't take off the head of Favin, who looked for information. He gathers it. Godsent into an awkward position economically, and Sprout should, in theory, and should being a big word in that sentence because they've already lost against pistols, but they should be good to take 10.
No real reason for Godsent to take any real risks here. A few deagles dropped by Farlig with the extra cash he had, and yeah, I'm kind of hoping we're off the like Sprout mistake train, and then maybe having some sort of a resurgence for them, especially going into the third map. I don't think you want to be sat there thinking, okay, we lost this map. because of our own mistakes, which, well, to an extent, is going to be true. But if they lost this round, I think that might really do some damage to the mentality of the squad. Even if it is your opponent's map choice, there's at least 3 rounds, maybe even more. Actually, no, I think you could even up it to 4 with that sort of SMG pistol win. So there's 4 rounds in my mind that I think, okay, that shouldn't have happened for Sprout. And sure, Godsent did a fantastic job. It seems like they've been able to just win rounds off the back of individual brilliance. But if you're Sprout in this scenario, you're going, okay, we take away those 4 rounds and we're very easily in the lead here.
Oh, exactly. I mean, 4 rounds is a quarter of the grand total you need for the map, right? And that's not even taking into account those 4 rounds have an economic sort of reverb echo to them as well. That 4 can turn into 7 or 8 rounds pretty easily. Now we're having a full-on execute take shape. One of the Molotovs has actually missed. Oh. They're getting punished. It's pistols, and Zen and Madden are tearing through them. It's all down to Spiddy. And what you were just talking about, Tom, may very well come to light, barring a Spiddy clutch on 26 HP. He's already got 2. He'd be on for the ace as well, and Zen through the smoke takes his head off. That has got to be the crippling body blow that sees Sprout reeling out of Inferno.
Oh, that's the GG. Like, there's no way they come back from this now. Like, if you're NK, obviously the coach of Sprout on the side, I don't know. I think he's going to be as bold as me by the end of this match, because this is one where you're just almost ripping your hair out. Like, there's so many rounds now that have slipped away. And again, like, Godsent have been fantastic with the pistols, but you kind of have to look at the players on their side and think, how are you not shutting down? That was Crystal at the back of the side with a P250. And I think Zen ran through the smoke and got, was it either 2 or 3 kills? Like,
yeah, with a 5-7.
That's just poor play. And Sprout, I think even just mentally, you've got to be down and out of this. Just take the loss, go on to the next map and try and bring things back on Nuke, which, as we mentioned, they have looked very, very good on as of recent, whether it's against the top tier of opponents or not. They now have to try and win one of these rounds of their own, and those have not looked likely at all. I think we had 1 off the back of Spiddy's CZ earlier in the match. In this case, they're getting slaughtered. Madden has been superb, although he's found the 1 man on beat. Did Crystal push his own smoke?
I think he did. So it's not just the kill, but it's an M4. And now there's 3 assault rifles, but Madden
never mind.
shredding through the weakened Spiddy and the headshot onto Fav, and Snatchy, 35 seconds to go. Lands, I think, a headshot through the wall, but it really doesn't matter, Tom, because we are headed to Nuke, our 3rd important deciding map. With elimination, Godsent bounced back, but I do feel like Sprout will be having a pretty solid feeling that they shot themselves in the foot multiple times there, Tom. That could have easily been a very close map.
Yeah, I think looking back at this one, there are literally about 5 rounds where I could go, okay, if you play this one a little bit more together or like slightly better strategy, you probably take that one over the line. So yeah, not a great map from Sprout. Obviously, Godsent bouncing back, and some of the individuals that stepped up for them were fantastic, like Zen, Sticko, Farlig, all having incredible clutch rounds. So it's going to make Nuke an exciting one that's good for both sides. And while the desk is going to break this one down and then lead us into that finale.